welcome to temple service. Just as it says there, everyone is welcome and loved here. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and get us started off with the San Lujo chant. Give it just a moment. Hopefully it works out. If not, I'll just move on to the rest. In that case, I'm just going to start by welcoming the Buddhas to our temple. We respectfully welcome Amida Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome the Buddhas of all times and places to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. Alright, we'll go ahead and read the 6 paramitas. Give it. May I be generous and helpful. Guidance. May I be guided by the Buddhist precepts. Tolerance. May I regard the mistakes of others with sympathy. Perseverance. May I do my best in all things. Meditation. May I reflect deeply on my life through the Buddhist teachings. And insight. May I understand the meaning of Namu Amida Butsu. And now we'll go ahead and read the Bodhisattva vows. The many beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Greed, hatred, and ignorance rise endlessly. I vow to abandon them. Dharma gates are countless. I vow to wake them. Buddha's way is unsurpassed. I vow to embody it fully. Alright. And we'll see if that works out or not. With the internet, but for now I'm just going to continue on with the service for today. So we'll go ahead and do the triple refuge. Vedam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Today we continue along the sacred, noble, eightfold path. Last week we explored right intention, the energy behind our choices. Now we flow into right speech, the sacred bridge between thought and action. Right speech is the third limb of the Eightfold Path. It reminds us that our words carry power to harm, to heal, to divide, and to unify. The Buddha taught that we should refrain from false speech, lying or deceiving, divisive speech, gossip, or words that create separation, harsh speech, cruelty or anger in tone, and idle chatter, speaking without purpose or presence. Instead, we are encouraged to speak truthfully, kindly, beneficially, and at the right time. If you propose to speak, always ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? The Buddha. Right speech begins in silence. We pause, we breathe, we feel what's behind the urge to speak. Then, when we do speak, it becomes sacred. Each word is an offering, a reflection of our intention, and a vibration sent out into the universe. Right speech is the medicine for our divided world. It is the way we plant seeds of harmony, truth, and love, one conversation at a time. I'll just go ahead and get us started with our meditation. For now, I just want you guys to bring to mind any blockages, anything that you feel has been keeping you stuck, anything that's felt like you've been struggling with it, or things that have been trying to come to the surface. And I'm just going to help send out that healing energy to you to work through those blockages, along with this tuning fork. Now we can go ahead and move on to our meditation for today and our breath work. For this breath work, the focus is speaking from the heart. I invite you, as you inhale, to feel the intention of I listen within. And as you exhale, feel the intention of I speak with love. Inhale presence, exhale peace. And for those of you who haven't joined us before, we practice the infinity breath, which is we start by breathing out all that stale energy as a lower loop, and then we hold in our center, and then we breathe in all that bright, magnificent crater light from the universe, and that forms that upper loop, and then we hold in our center once again, and then we breathe out again, but this time we're circulating. And we hold in our center, and we just repeat that, circulating that energy around us and through us as we meditate. So I want you to close your eyes. Imagine your mind as a still pond. Feel the silence between your thoughts. Ask, what truth wants to rise from my heart? Sit in stillness, listening not to words, but to inner wisdom. I just want you to take some time and be in that space, be in that moment, be present where you are, feel the ground beneath you, feel everything around you, and listen. Listen to that inner voice. Listen to what it has to say, what it has to tell you, and if your mind wanders, allow it to wander for a little bit, and then gently guide it back to your intention. Guide it back to stillness. And when you're ready, end by gently repeating the words, "May my words be of peace. May my voice reflect truth." Alright? And for those of you who are ready, you can come back into the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and show our card for this week. So our reflection for this week is transform negative emotions. You can find healthier and safer ways of expressing the frustration that usually lies behind anger by turning the emotion into creativity, going for a brisk walk, or doing that very old-fashioned thing, counting to 10 before you speak. Alright, and there's the card for those who want to read it. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and go over the mindfulness homework for this week and integration. Number 1, practice the pause. This week, pause before speaking, even for one breath. Ask, is this kind? Is this necessary? Is this aligned? Number 2 is a journal prompt. Reflect on a recent conversation that didn't sit well. What energy was behind your words? What could have shifted the outcome? Number 3, conscious speech day. Choose one full day to practice intentional speech only. Speak less, listen more. Use your voice as a blessing. Beloved Sangha, your voice is sacred. Let your words become instruments of truth, bridges of healing, and ripples of compassion. May your tongue be guided by your heart. May your voice be soft, steady, and strong. And may every word you speak be a seed of awakening. All right. And with that, we are ending the service for today. I'm going to go ahead and get our flyer to show what we have on offer over at the temple. If you want to swing by or want to, come take part in any of these, our address is in the description below. For those who are stopping here, who just came for the service, namaste to you. I wish you a wonderful week and blessings to you. Thank you for coming. And we're going to be moving on to our podcast next, our discussion podcast. For those who are staying on, we're going to take some time to get that set up. Shouldn't be more than a couple minutes, so just sit tight. All right. Hello, everyone. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Quinn, and this is Miguel. We're going to be talking about the service and about really just anything that comes to us to talk about. So, Miguel, how do you feel about the service, about right speech and all that?
Well, it's always better to speak good things and bad things because manifestation is a very powerful thing. And it even says in the Bible that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So oftentimes what you speak can come to fruition. So even when, we have negative thoughts versus positive thoughts, if we keep ruminating on bad things, we're fearful, oh, what if this bad thing happens? That invites negative energies and negative vibes that you really don't want. And so, it's always better to be kind and say kind things, because it's easy to hurt someone's feelings, cause someone to have a bad day, just because you're having a bad mood, so you cuss at somebody. And so now that's kind of spiritual death, because now you're harming them just simply by speaking bad, harmful, negative things. So I mean, even just something as simple as just complimenting someone, just saying hi to somebody, or just asking them how they're doing, or just telling them, hey, have a good day, or just tell them, hey, you're loved, and
Right. Yeah, like there's also just like that point of like taking stock of your words, being sure that what you have to say is something that should be said in the first place. Many times that we don't really stop to think and we just say things, right? We may not mean them. It may just be a manifestation of how we're feeling in that moment. But once we've said something, we can't really take it back. Rarely do we find people who are so understanding that we're like, wait, hold on, I didn't mean that, and they actually accept that, oh yeah, that wasn't something that you meant to say. So it's important to take time to recognize, is this something I need to say? Is this something that is well-intentioned? Is this something that brings joy, or is this something that, like, is supportive, is helpful in any way? Like, you can deliver bad news to people. You can say negative things, but it's important to know when is the right time and place. And to consider, how do I say this? Even if you have to impart negative news, if you have to tell somebody that, oh, they're, like, say you're a doctor, and you have to tell somebody that their mother passed away in the operating room. You have to be mindful of how you go about that. How do you tell them? And, like, for anything, really, you have to, it's helpful to just take a moment, to take that pause, and to think about it, to think, is this the best way to convey what I'm trying to convey? Or is this something, like, emotional? Is this something that is purely, like, coming from where I am in the moment and that I'm going to regret saying later?
It's so easy for us to just say what's on our mind, regardless of whether it's the thing that we probably should say, and so a lot of times, we might say stuff that's strictly out of feeling. I might be angry in the moment and I say something that's very mean and very harsh that I know might hurt somebody, or it just it's so sometimes it's hard to control your tongue, and hard to to have that discipline of saying the right thing at the right time. It's not easy, especially like if you were never taught good communication skills or social skills, it can be very hard, and so it's relative too sometimes. What might insult one person might not be that bad to another person.
Right.
So and there's different factors, culture, religion.
It's important to recognize people as much as you can. Like, some people are just strangers to you and you don't really know them all that well, but for the people that you do know well, it is important to take into account, okay, they're the kind of person who can take this news right now. Or maybe I need to give this person some time. I need to let them, sit for a while. Or maybe I need to, if I need to tell them this, there is a good time to do it, or like there is a good way to do it. Like maybe I invite them to do something fun, and I reveal the thing right before, so that we can go ahead and have fun, and like it can help her or him get their mind off of it. It's like time and place are so important with what you say. And sometimes you won't even realize it. Sometimes people can read so much into what you say that you never really intended. So that's why it's important to be mindful of your tone, of, that what you're saying is at the necessary time and place. That it's said in a way that is mindful of the other individual. We can get into so much trouble just, because we speak out with feeling. And, it is important also to be honest as much as we can, I know that uh, honesty is not like, there are times when honesty will hurt you, you know, and that again, it's important to know time and place, when it is time to speak, when it is right for you to listen. But when you speak, being able to speak with honesty is a very freeing feeling. And recognizing who you can share that honesty with.
Yeah, oftentimes what people view as good and bad can be a matter of perspective, and so you might say something that's offensive to one person that wasn't offensive to another person that you told to, just even like a mere joke, and so that often can take account whether or not you hurt someone's feelings, and because oftentimes what we say isn't always necessarily good or bad. It's just a matter of perspective,
Right.
And I mean, honesty is always important, no matter what, and so sometimes if someone can't handle the reality and the truth, then obviously that person needs some kind of improvement in that field of whatever it is that you're talking about.
Right. Or, I feel like with some people, it just takes finding the right context to share the truth with them, or the right way to say it. So much of what we say is in how we say it. And maybe they have a tough time with it, but being able to say it in a better context may be more helpful to them than just saying it out of nowhere. And recognizing the right timing. When is the right time to tell them?
Yeah, because you can speak the truth. Two people can be saying two different things, and both of them being true about the same thing. Like if me and another person were looking at a quarter hanging between us, he says he sees tails, and I say I see heads. We're both right, even though we're saying two different things. So that perspective has a lot to do with it, and so everyone should be able to be respectful of each other's perspective, because there's different facets of a whole truth. So, even though I see heads and he sees tails, we're both right of the same one coin, and that's that can oftentimes lead to conflict, which might seem innocent to you because you say, well, I believe this, I think that, or I've done this in my past, and someone might not agree with it and say, no, that's wrong, and so at that point, it can lead to arguments, and that's, so it's always good to have an open mind and be non-judgmental. Otherwise, you might view something like bad, but someone just, in the context of their life, that's how they viewed it, or that's how they felt, or just because of the circumstances, it might have forced them to do something. And so, but it's always good to have that open mind and be non-judgmental, because if I tell somebody my experiences in life, and then someone says, well, that's bad, that's not good, then you're speaking that death of the tongue, because now, you're basically saying, well, I'm a terrible person because I did this bad thing. But
Right.
everyone's done bad things in their life. Everyone's harmed somebody, or they've just done harmful things to themselves, or just done silly things that caused really bad consequences. You know?
Yeah, and like a part of the Bible I remember in particular as one of the apostles asks Jesus, "How many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times?" And Jesus says, "No, 70 times 7." And I feel like a lot of people forget or don't really reflect on that part of things. It's so easy to condemn somebody in a moment of that you learn that they did something wrong, or that you learn about like how they have harmed you or something like that. That's not to say that like you need to keep them in your life, or that like you need to trust them in the same way that you used to, but forgiving them, forgiveness is the only way that you can really overcome anything that's happened to you or to someone that you know, or like, it's the only way that you can truly overcome the scenario. Otherwise, it sticks in your subconscious. It stays with you. It remains there. But yeah, like, just to go back to, the right speech part of that, it's important to take time before speaking when you are in a place of anger or frustration to weigh your words carefully, because the tongue is a very powerful weapon. It can be a very powerful tool of healing. It can be a very powerful weapon. It can be good or bad. It can cause so much harm to someone who's already down, or can lift them up. There's so much that you can do with your words, and with your words alone, that you may not even always realize that you're doing these things. You may not always recognize like the power that your words are having over others, but they have such power. Even just triggering minute insecurities can cause a person to like completely flip out, and that's why it's important to take that kind of pause, to make sure that what you're saying is really what you want to say, that it really is the best thing for you to be saying, especially in heated moments. If you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling vengeful, take a moment, take some time, and think, am I going to regret this? Is this going to cause more harm than good? I know it can feel good to let out your emotions, to have an outburst, but sometimes just taking a few seconds to regroup, to just take everything in, to assess things, can completely change your future for the better.
Now, sometimes though, people have to be told something that they need to hear, but it's not necessarily what they want to hear.
Right.
So it might be harmful a little bit because it hurts. Because I know if I tell somebody something, it might hurt them, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
because
it falls under the category of necessary, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it may not be kind, but it is necessary, and you can find a kind way to go about it. You know, that's where I feel like it's important to pay attention and to, you know, think about your timing. Think about, like, you know, how you can best convey this to a person, so that, like, it, and convey it clearly so that they understand it, while also, like, you know, there are ways that you can soften the blow. Like, you don't have to say everything just harsh, clear, clear cut, just like as straightforward as you can. Brutal honesty isn't always the right choice. There are some people who just, like, you can't get through to any other way. Like, you have to be brutally honest or they will not understand. And for that case, that's understandable. But, like, for people who you're able to communicate in a way that's more accommodating to them, you know, it may be helpful to consider how you communicate what you need to communicate to them.
Yeah. Not all bad news is bad.
Yeah.
You know, so if you tell somebody something, like, let's say you have a partner and your friend knows that your partner's cheating on you, and then they go pull you aside and say, hey man, you know, your partner's been cheating on you for a while. I just thought you'd like to know. You know, that something like that, it hurts. It really does hurt. You know, you don't want to tell them, but you know it's something that they need to hear, because otherwise they'll keep living this lie, and you know, it'll be even worse if they find out later,
Right.
especially if, you know, it gets more serious and then they find this out. You know, so
Yeah.
sometimes you have to say something hurtful to
Help.
to help somebody who's in need. You know, it's like kind of like, you know, like if you got a cut, you know, you might have to put some kind of ointment that's gonna sting.
Right.
But the sting lets you know that it's working.
Mhm.
You know, and so sometimes people need that sting, that, you know, that immediate hurt that's going to cause you less suffering in the long term.
Right, and I really do think that pain is part of the healing process. Part of how you know that you're healing is that you do feel pain, you know? It's a sign that the healing is happening. But yeah, like, I do feel like, you know, and even in that scenario, like, say that your friend has a partner who's cheating on him. You know, you may know that your friend, you could tell this to your friend and he will not believe you. Unless you have some hard evidence. And in that case, you need to be sure that you don't go to him with this until you actually have something to prove. Hey, your partner's been cheating on you, and this is how I know, this is, you know, this is the evidence for that. Like, I'm not just talking out of my butt, you know. Just so, like, they can recognize that. And that's where it comes into where, like, you need to, with friends and people that you're close to, it's good to try and get to know them so that you know how they best receive information. That way you're able to more smoothly communicate with them and able to get across what you need to get across when you need to.
And certainly how someone views something and how they cope with something takes a big factor in how you approach them, because some people, you know, you might be able to tell them something and be brutally harsh and honest about it, and they'll take it pretty well. And they'll be like, you know, you know, that kind of person, they might like, oh, thanks, man. You know, I'm glad you said something. You know, I can just, you know, let the situation go. But some people can be much more sensitive, and it might require proper timing, or it might just, you know, you might have to say it in such a way where it won't feel as bad.
Right. And then, like, you know, there are other times when, like, the right timing is to tell them as soon as you notice. Because, like, for some people, like, maybe you'll notice something and you won't say something until later. And they'll feel bad that you didn't say something right away. Because, like, maybe they had something in their teeth, you know, like, just something as small as that. And you notice it. But, like, you know, time goes by and, like, later you kind of finally get up and tell them because, like, you figured maybe someone else would tell them at some point. But, like, by the time you tell them, they're like, "What? Why didn't you say anything? You know, we were talking this whole time. Like, I didn't, you know." And then I went around and I talked to other people. Why didn't you say anything about that?
Yeah, some that habit of, oh, I'll wait for someone else to do it. It's very bad because if everyone had the same mindset, no one would ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm just gonna push it off. I'll say this later. I'll say that later. You know, and that's never good. You know?
Right. Like, if it's something that's really important to say, it's better not to put it off. It's better not to save it for some occasion. You know, I remember I played a visual novel before. It was very tragedy focused, and one of the tragedies it focused on was on a man and a woman who were husband and wife who kept having terrible miscommunications, and it got to the point where they were no longer speaking, and the husband kept wanting to talk things over, but he kept convincing himself that he couldn't do it right then. And eventually, he set an occasion for it. He's like, okay, by this milestone, I'm going to talk to my wife about this. But by that point, it was already too late, and she was gone. She'd already left. So, you know, you never know when what you have to say will be too late.
Yeah, it's always better. It's more often than not, it's better to, you know, to say something sooner than later, because it could be the matter of, you know, an issue being resolved or not, you know, but so sometimes it's kind of dicey and hard to figure out whether or not, you know, what I'm saying is it good or bad. You know, sometimes you just have to weigh the options and see, you know, is it worth saying? Because sometimes saying nothing at all is a good option, because you might not win either way, you know. And so, or sometimes people just learn better by you not saying anything at all. So
Right.
that's always an option too. But to purposely say something just to hurt somebody is never good in any case.
Yeah. And, you know, that's why, like, that silence is important. That pause, that time to think about, you know, what you say, how you say it. To really consider it. You don't need to say everything rapid fire. I know that some people can feel a kind of pressure to keep a conversation going, or to, you know, keep everything flowing, but it's okay to be quiet sometimes. It's okay to just listen. It's okay to not always have an answer to somebody's problem. You know, sometimes they just want someone to listen to them, and that's fine. You know, it's like people aren't always coming to you for a solution. Sometimes people just want to talk and they want to release whatever it is that's inside of them uh, to somebody else so that it's not all pent up. And they're not really asking for advice. They're not asking for your opinion. They're not asking for you to distract them. They're just putting it out there so that it can be out there.
Oftentimes, sometimes the best healing is just letting somebody talk and you just listen, non-judgmentally.
Hold space for something.
Sometimes someone might want a little bit of advice or just
Right.
just some kind of comfort, but for the most part, it's.
And a lot of times, if people want advice, they'll ask. Like, they'll say, "What should I do?" Or like, "Can you help me somehow?"
Yeah, and so, it's always good. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do, to show someone love, is just to be there for them. Don't say anything. Just allow them to vent. Because that'll release a lot of negative energy and a lot of tension. Knowing that somebody can know your issues and know that they're not going to judge you for it and think any less of you.
Right.
I don't know how many times I've had people come up to me and say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this, but," and then go on to some long spiel about some horrible thing that's happened in their life, and then them just simply tell me, "Thank you for listening."
Yeah. And, even if they are coming to you for advice, know that, like, you don't have answers for everything and you don't have to. It's okay to say, "I don't know," if you don't know. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself to have an answer or to come up with an answer that's half-baked, because, like, you can't think of it. A lot of that's how you end up getting yourself in even more trouble, right?
Yeah, sometimes we don't. We don't need to know the how and the why if something happened. As long as we can have a solution to it. And sometimes that's all you need is just something that just give someone a good word of advice. Like if they say that they have this problem, sometimes you don't even have to know the background to it or how it happened, why it happened, when, where, but sometimes all they need to know is, "I got myself in this bad situation. How can I get myself out?"
Right.
Just giving somebody just a straightforward answer. Hey, maybe you should try this, or even just simply showing them.
Right. But yeah, like, even sometimes people get themselves into things that you don't know how to get them out of. And it's okay to say, "Hey, I don't know." Like, maybe you could refer them to somebody else who's more experienced or who might be more helpful. But, being able to set aside that kind of pride, that kind of, "Oh, like, I have the answer," feeling when you don't, I think that's just as important. If you try and fake like you know the answer, or try and pretend to be, someone that's able to fix things when you can't, you can sometimes end up getting them into even more trouble. So, it's important to recognize your own limits.
And sometimes it's perfectly okay to not have a solution.
Yeah.
If you don't know, just be like, look, I don't know, and I don't know anyone to help you, but I'm gonna be with you through thick and thin,
Yeah.
and comfort the person, bring them a sort of solace, that they wouldn't be able to do, that they wouldn't be able to handle on their own. So just sometimes just being there, being a good friend or whatever, and just
not being alone is a comfort.
right, just knowing that, hey, I'll be there with you. I might not be able to get you out of the situation, but I can help you ease the pain that you're going through. It's like the old saying, misery loves company. And I mean that sometimes has some bad connotations, but whenever you're feeling bad, a lot of times someone just needs a friend to talk to.
Yeah. I think we've really covered a lot today. Do you think there's anything else that comes to mind that you want to talk about?
No, I think we've had a pretty good discussion.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Namaste and Satnam to you. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next Sunday. All right. Later.